Hello again YouTube, and welcome to my video commemorating the other places I used to play arcade games in Southampton. These are going to be the other arcades besides Sega Park that I used to enjoy playing. So this is going to cover 1992 through to 2013, so some great memories, 21 years of memories to share with you. Really going to discuss a time when you could find arcades in all sorts of places like burger joints, takeaways, fish and chip shops, fairgrounds as well. You know, really is a bygone era. I'm not saying that, you know, our era was better. It was just, you know, that's the way it was back then. So 1992, the Variety Takeaway, Swaythling, Southampton used to play some Blood Brothers in there. Really enjoyed that game. Little men doing their little dancing, you know, when they little cowboys after you'd beaten a level. Fantastic stuff. Also Munchies Cafe, Burgess Road, Southampton. Street Fighter 2 World Warrior and Champion Edition was there. We used to go there after school and play on that. Get lots of some good regulars down there as well. They could pop in at the weekend and after school and during our lunch breaks whenever we could, because, you know, we just couldn't get enough of Street Fighter at the time. It was fantastic stuff. Big George's Fish Shop in 1993 used to play some Mortal Kombat, some Fatal Fury down there. That's still going to this day. Of course, the games have long gone. Yep, little video library used to have a Neo Geo set up, and also Mega Drive and SNES. You could play sort of about £1 for 20 minutes or so. They still used to have long because we knew the guy used to work there. And you know, after that we popped down to Big George's Fish Shop, play some Mortal Kombat. So, you know, great times to be had there. It's the first time I saw that double fatality with Johnny Cage where that guy knocked his head off twice. Really, really good stuff, and, you know, props to all the people that I went there with. Okay, moving on to 1992, I'll go back just a little bit before. There was this video game arcade in Eastleigh, I think in the High Street. I think it's now either a curry house or a bathroom showroom, not sure which one's which, but the premise is still there, but the video game shop has long gone. They had Aliens, the arcade game, and Final Fight. Really, really had some good times there, so, you know, what more can I say? Great stuff to play there. I played Aliens, completed it just by throwing loads of money in the game, didn't have any skill at all, so I really did what we call a forced completion of that game, but, you know, really proud of doing that nevertheless. Bit and Bowl, 1993, you know, enjoyed that place as well. We went there with our school for our PE lessons. Street Fighter Turbo, I think I remember playing there. You know, not much to say about that. I really didn't go there except when the school went there, so you know, very little to be said about that. That's now a gymnasium, of course. Anything else to discuss? Yes, there's a couple of there was Greentrees Cafe in Southampton. That's now the Subway in London Road. There's a place called Greentrees Cafe before Subway came along, used to be there. What more to say? They had Ghost and Goblins in there. Really enjoyed playing that one. Couldn't get anywhere on it. Really, really tough game, Ghost and Goblins. Thanks, I have that on the Capcom Classics collection. So really, really enjoyed myself on that there. Okay, so I'm now going to move on to the fairgrounds. Pause. Oh, hang on. Whoa. Okay, that's right. Okay. Okay, so also as well we had the Game Exchange in the High Street, Southampton. That was opposite the old McDonald's. That's now, I think, a jeweller's or either a vacant shop. Not sure which one is which. I think it's probably the vacant shop, the older Staff 2000 agency. That's where they used to be. In there you had all sort of the games below, the Mega Drive and the SNES stuff, and upstairs you would have the arcades, and in the arcade there was Mortal Kombat, of course, Mortal Kombat 1, not Mortal Kombat 2. I remember beating sort of the in-store champion there, and he mockingly barring me, because apparently I was the only guy that beat him, but then his friend beat me with some cheesy jumping technique, and he became the so-called champion. So I'm really annoyed to this day that I didn't have the skill to beat such a cheesy pattern, but, you know, what can I do? You know, it's 18 years ago, so I really got to get over it, but I never will. Yeah, well, you know, there we go. That's some things just play on your mind, don't they? Also, two other arcades, one in Shirley, one in Portswood. Those were gambling joints. They had a token Street Fighter 2 machine in each of those, but the buttons on them were messed up. It's sort of like sort of one great big button split into three, sort of like a pie chart mechanism, so you couldn't play the game properly, but, you know, good fun nevertheless, and it really emphasises that passion that you're happy to travel to them, you know, walk to those places. After playing at Sega Park, I used to walk all the way down to Shirley just to play a broken Street Fighter machine. Really showed the passion I had for that at the time, so really, really missed that passion. It's something you can't buy, it's either there or it's not, and, you know, fantastic memories, and I'm glad to share. I can share them with you now. Okay, so that's the Takeaways, fast food joints, another little place used to find arcade games. Okay, so moving on, now we're going to talk about the Fairground that used to be in Southampton Common, either during the Southampton Balloon Show when that was around way back when, or just generally up there at the Easter time or during the summer holidays. Great times with that. I remember lots of games used to play. Final Fight, Street Fighter 2, that was the first time I ever played that game there. Remember in the summer before the fair came up, I was on holiday in Switzerland, had these little Street Fighter 2 trading cards I got from the old Sega Pro magazine. Used to say to everybody how good I was because I'd seen all the moves on that card. When it actually came down to it, I was absolute rubbish. So that firmly put me in my place and reminds me never to brag ever again, because you know you'll always be taken down a peg or two if you do. But you know that's where I, you know, as well as Munchies Cafe, I cut my teeth on Street Fighter 2 in that place as well. Mortal Kombat was there, the first one. Shinobi, an old game from the 80s, was there in the early 90s. The Punisher, great little beat 'em up there from Capcom. The Simpsons, classic sort of 4-player sky-scrolling beat 'em up there from Konami. World Heroes and Fatal Fury, SNK's early answers to Street Fighter 2. Didn't really get them right the first time round, but you know they more than made up that with the later King of Fighters games that came later. House of the Dead was there quite a few years early after the glory days. Time Crisis 2 was there as well. There are a few arcades you can still get there when the Fairground is up, but nothing great. You've got the old Suzuki 24-hour Sega Rally, possibly a Daytona machine, and a dreadful game called Valve Limit. If you see that, you should just avoid it because it's absolute garbage. You know, 1992 through to 1999. Remember in 1999 they had a crazy taxi and a small House of the Dead machine. So, you know, fantastic stuff. Really enjoyed being at the Fairground during my youth. You know, what more can I say? Also, as well, there was another Fairground in Eastleigh during the summer. You know, 1993 through to 2000, they had great games there. World Heroes 2 was there, Cadillac and the Dinosaurs, Metal Slug, Street Fighter 2, both Champion Edition and World Warrior. I remember one of the owners throwing me off Street Fighter Champion Edition. He wanted to get his engineer to look at it. He didn't give me a refund, but that's Fairgrounds for you, unfortunately. Something we had to put up with at the time. Remember playing Mortal Kombat there as well. Everybody, all the Fairground sort of, you know, guys that work in the Fairgrounds being really impressed that I was doing the fatalities. And they annoyed my friend by pushing his hands off the machine just because they were like that, but there we go. Street Fighter Alpha was there as well. Didn't really spend much time with that. All my friends had the advantage on that because they had the PlayStation version and I didn't have a PlayStation at the time because I was poor. But you know, all good memories nevertheless. And sadly you know, the Fairground is still there, but all the arcades sort of went after that great time I had in there in 2000. 1993 will be the best year I had at that fair. You know, the first time I was there, it was fantastic. Really lovely summer. Fantastic rides as well, and you know, really good time in the arcade, so what more can I say? 2000 was a good send-off as well. Played some Metal Slug, some World Heroes 2. You really, you know, very rarely find games like that out in the wild even back then, so you know, fantastic that it was there for as long as it was, so good memories to share. Okay, now there was Quasar in Southampton where yep, Canute Pavilion, Ocean Village, Southampton, Quasar. Now that was a sort of big arcade. That was really the arcade you went to before Sega Park came along. That operated from 1992 through to 1997. Loads of stuff to talk about there. Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. Remember being very naughty and bunking off in late 1992 to play Mortal Kombat 1. I don't think it was worth it, but you know, I never got caught, and I'm sure if the teacher wants to have a go at me now, he's more than welcome to. Yeah, enjoyed myself in Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 when it was there in late 92, early 93. Had a lot of regulars on Mortal Kombat 2. That was a really popular machine, apart from some two idiots who kept hogging the damn thing, but you know, there we go. You're always going to get a couple of those in the arcades. Older guys who thought they could just bully themselves, you know, we can just keep playing and that's it. But thankfully those people are now hopefully the thing of the past. What else was there? Fatal Fury 2 was there, as I mentioned that in Big George's Fish Shop. You had Mad Dog McCree, some of the first laser disc games that were there. Enjoyed that. I know it gets a bad rap, Mad Dog McCree, and also that police equivalent they had there, Laserdisc, but you know, it was the first light guns games I ever played, so there's always a soft spot in my heart for those, so good times to share. Really enjoyed Mad Dog McCree. Killer Instinct 2 was there. Remember actually having to buy a cheat book which cost £6 just so I could work out how to use the last boss on that. Would never do that now because of the internet, but that's what we had to do back then, so great times on that game. I think I completed it once or twice with that barbarian character, forget his name. Good times nevertheless. Virtua Fighter was there. That's the first place I ever saw Virtua Fighter 1. Didn't really like the look of it at the time. Didn't compare to Street Fighter 2 for me, but it was quite popular amongst the casual players. Ridge Racer was there as well. Daytona USA, the first place I ever saw Daytona USA, that was in 1994. My friend used to take joy in sort of smacking me off on the beginner course. He wouldn't be able to do that now, I'll tell you that. But you know, great times to be had there. Really enjoyed that one. NBA Jam, classic little game there from Midway as well. Primal Rage, you know, what more can I say about Primal Rage? Didn't really like it that much in the arcade, but you know, big cabinet they had there at the time, so you know, really good spectacle to behold. Point Blank was there as well. Suzuki 24 Hour in the early days. Area 51 was there. Not such a great game. I know I've got that on PlayStation, but you know, didn't really think much of that at the time, but you know, all right for what it was. I remember just a couple of things as well, apart from the Mortal Kombat regulars in the early days. Towards the end of its life, they had a lot of the Daytona players used to come in from the clubs, and there's a lot of nightlife around there at the time. Sort of £1 for 16 laps, fantastic stuff, and all the clubbers used to come in and have those great big multiplayer matches. I used to join him and used to sort of come out victorious most of the time, but then again, you know, the quality of the competition wasn't really good, especially after about 4 or 5 beers that they were on. So good times nevertheless, and you know, thank you very much Quasar for those times. Going to move on now to Quasar's successor. Stop. Run by the same company, just a little bit further up in Canute Pavilion was a place called Way Out West. Loads of arcades to talk about there. That run from 1996 through to 2001. Silent Scope 1 and 2, Daytona USA, 16 laps again as it should be. Scud Race, King of Fighters 96. They had another, just you know, 3 arcades at the time had that game. That was incredible. So enjoyed that there as well. That was a lot cheaper than it was at Sega Park. Final Fight, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Mortal Kombat 3, those 2 games, Super Street Fighter Turbo, Mortal Kombat 3, they were really tough in one-player mode. I used to get my backside kicked by the CPU all the time. House of the Dead 1 and 2 was there as well. The Last Bounty Hunter, another Laserdisc game. Quick Draw, another Laserdisc game, so we had the gun and you used to have to put out very quickly and shoot. I remember actually beating the very last boss on that, or you know, the so-called world Quick Draw champion. By using, you know, just watching where the sign went backwards and forwards on that, and everyone was standing around watching me and congratulating me when I beat that. So, you know, really good for my ego, but you know, it doesn't really mean much, does it? But good fun nevertheless. What else did we have there? Carnival. They left loads of service credits on that particular game. I had about 15 or 16. We just really just started using all of those when we went in there back in '99. We found them on there, and me and my friend just played that game right until the very end. We completed it. I'm not much of a fan of Carnival, I have to be honest, but if you know, you can have, if you see a game with free credits on, grab it, because you know it is really worth it. What else? Prop Cycle was there as well. You know, same as Sega Park. Crazy Taxi was there towards the end of Way Out West's life. Radical Bikers from Galco, probably the only Galco game I like. That little song that goes, "I'm a pizza man." Yeah, you remember how that was. Great stuff there. The game wasn't that good, but that song was fantastic. Winding Heat. Interesting little racer from Konami. Didn't really pay much attention to that. As I say, at that particular time I only had eyes for fighting games. But good stuff nevertheless. I think they had Vampire. Vampire Savior was either Darkstalkers, one or the other. And they also had, of course, I really forgot to mention this one. It was Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter. That was there as well. Play against Cyber Akuma. Really tough game to play. I found it anyway, but then I wasn't good at the versus games at that time. So good stuff to see that there nevertheless. Okay, and of course they had that great big giant baseball game there that you had with cage around it. Just quite a basic game. You have to hit these home runs with this sort of mock baseball bat. I remember smacking the cage and someone standing behind it, and he got the shock of his life. But good times nevertheless. I never did manage to ride that great big rodeo cow they had there in the middle of their arcade, but good times nevertheless. So thank you very much Quasar. Thank you very much Way Out West. Way Out West in particular, you had that sort of, you know, late night free play, which was basically my equivalent of a, you know, a night out clubbing. That was fantastic. All those games I used to play like they did at Sega Park when they had their free play night on. So, you know, more free play nights in arcades. We really do need them back. All the ones that are still surviving, free play nights will get the customers in now. I swear to you. So you know, please give it a shot. Please give it a go. Fantastic. So let's talk about. Okay, so that was Way Out West. There was also an arcade in Eastleigh as well. That was only there for a few months. It really, to be honest, it was some sort of play scheme there for sort of younger kids, because there were loads of kids in there, but they weren't really playing any games. To be honest, it was in a rather silly location. It's in the service road between sort of Market Street and High Street, if you know Eastleigh well. It was located there. I think that premise is now some sort of theatre, sort of, you know, low-key sort of community theatre of some kind. But back then in '99, they had sort of Crazy Taxi was there, House of the Dead 2, Daytona USA, Killer Instinct. I remember them being really impressed with my Crazy Taxi skills. So, you know, I got big props from everybody there for that, and played a bit of House of the Dead 2 was rubbish on that, and Daytona USA and Killer Instinct. You know, good luck. You know, I have to say, you know, location is very important for arcade. So I'm quite, you know, it wasn't too surprising that it didn't work out. But you know, credit to them for, you know, for giving it a go and getting off their ass and doing something. But you know, you know, some places like that it's just not meant to be. But you know, good try nevertheless. Okay. Also going back to Canoe Pavilion, Ocean Village, they had that penny arcade there. That ran from about early 1990s through to about 97, 98. They had that old-fashioned mechanical coin ops, sort of old mechanical games, sort of predating the video game era. They had that little sort of flick that coin into a cup to win a chocolate bar. Crane machine where you could actually win sweets. I mean, the good thing about that little arcade is you could actually win things in there. It wasn't rigged like some of the modern arcades are with, you know, the crane machines are on low power, so you can't pick anything up. It's, you know, you could really go in there and you know, you had a very high chance of winning some sweets or some chocolate, which was, you know, which was great stuff. 5p for a chocolate bar, fantastic, and you knew that it wasn't rigged and it was just down to your skill, and that's what we need now. We need things like, I'd love to see that back again. I think that would do really well. Anything else in there? The first time I ever saw a pachinko machine was in that arcade. Remember the attendants always used to play that sort of Polly Put the Kettle On instrumental on that jukebox for whatever reason, I don't know, but that was memorable to me. But yeah, really enjoy that little arcade. Would like to make something like that, see that make a comeback of some kind. Okay, pause. Okay, now moving on from the Ocean Village arcades, Red Funnel. Now they had a little arcade in their Southampton terminal. From about, I remember it, discovering it in 2002, and it sort of operated to about 2006. They had, believe it or not, they had a Planet Harriers machine in there. Now, how cool is that? 25p for 1 credit. Even though one side was broken, it was fantastic to play on. Me and my friend had a great time in there. Shame they shut that down, but you know, that's the way it goes. Also had Daytona USA in there as well. Revolution X was there as well. Prop Cycle was there. A game called Speed Up from Galco, pretty rubbish driving game, although I did play it a lot just to beat it. They're all good fun, you know, but seeing Planet Harriers, that was a real coup d'etat to find that in Southampton, fantastic, particularly at 25p a go. Also should mention as well, it was the first arcade, or the only arcade that ever had a Pump It Up machine in there. Don't think any of the dance players in Southampton knew about that one. So, you know, it was just really a discreet arcade for myself and my friends. You know, I'm sure, but there we go, you know, maybe no one else ventured down there, but we certainly did. Okay, Hotshots Stardust at the old Leisure World in Southampton, of course, that's still there. That was around there from about 1997 through to about 2008 when they replaced it with that Oceana they have in there now. In the arcade there, you had Daytona USA 2, a Power Edition, really enjoyed ourselves on that. Remember, you know, me and my friend having a great time, sort of shouting and screaming on that game, and sort of the bouncers just staring at us as if we were a bunch of dickheads. Well, you know, I'm not even going to talk about bouncers, you know. remember one particular incident, I was drinking my orange juice, and you had a couple of bouncers come up to me and said, you shouldn't drink that in here, and asked me to get out, which was nice. And at the same time, we had a great big gang of people trying to break off this coin mechanism or some sort of change machine. They're trying to kick it down. The bouncers did nothing about that, but they're happy to come over to me and tell me to stop drinking my orange juice so I didn't buy it in there. So there we go, that's bouncers for you. Okay, so apart from Daytona USA, the first place I ever played Outrun 2, I've probably mentioned enough about that on my Sega Park videos, but that was the first place that had Outrun 2 in Southampton. Really, really enjoyed myself there. The amount of money I put in that game was unbelievable. You know, fantastic times there. Really, really enjoyed myself. Before that, they had Ferrari F35 Challenge Twin. I remember losing a match on that. Not really much of a driving game fan at the time, but you know, good stuff nevertheless. Club Kart was there as well as the first game to actually use those little IC memory cards. Similarly, you get an initial D in other games. King of Fighters 96 was there when the place first opened. Really enjoyed that as well. They had the move list as well on the actual cabinet, so I came there with a piece of paper and just copied them all down. This was before the internet, or you know, I wasn't really using the internet back in '96, so the only place I could really get hold of the moves. So I could also play the game at Sega Park as well. House of the Dead 1 and 2 were there as well. 18-wheeler. Silent Scope 2, that's the first place I ever saw Silent Scope 2. They got that quicker than they did at Sega Park. Rolling Extreme, pretty you know, mediocre game, but quite enjoyed the sit-down cabinet nevertheless. That was sort of, not sure, that was sort of tobogganing game of some kind, sort of lube game. I think that's the, was it luge? I don't know how you pronounce it, I don't know. Need for Speed GT, pretty naff game, sort of rip-off of the home version. Really nothing more to say about that apart from it had a dreadful frame rate. LA Machine Gunners was there as well, sequel to Gunblade, fantastic stuff. Got that on the Wii, so you know, really enjoyed it when it was there. They had this dreadful game called Valve Limit down there, which was absolutely the pits and probably one of the worst arcade games I ever played. My friend nearly kicked the shit out of that machine. He was so mad of it, he was punching and kicking it because you know they had this dreadful thing coming the way. Well, I'm not even going to go into it, but the cards were like rubber that never played properly. Had this dreadful woman distracting you all the time, like some sort of polygon transsexual graphics that are on it. So. You know, I'll put a link below if you want to see how bad the graphics were on that game, but literally is one of the worst games I've ever played, and no wonder my friend nearly smashed that machine up. But there we go. In the reception area as well, the reception area is still there, some video games in there. Back then they had House of the Dead 3 and 4, Battle Gear 4. Now, one coup, as well as Planet Harriers in Red Funnel, another coup d'etat was Cooper's 9. That was a very rare light gun game. That was a very good light gun game. Would have loved to have seen that in Sega Park, but, you know, it wasn't to be. But really, really fantastic stuff. And I oversaw that one other place on the Isle of Wight and really would have loved that to see that around in some other arcade. So any arcade owners listening, please do try and get that game. I know it was very rare and we're very lucky to see that at all. Really, really enjoyed myself with Cooper's 9. Thank you very much for that, Leisure World. Now they've just got Terminator Salvation and I think a Fast and Furious game in there in 2013. So nothing much to write home about, but really enjoyed it when, you know, Stardust and Hotshots were open. Really enjoyed it before, of course, it became Oceania. Okay, moving on back to Ocean Village now. Signworld Cinema, this is up to date. They have a little arcade in there. Got Sega Race TV, that's Yu Suzuki's last game for Sega before he left. Very colourful game, but extremely slow, and I have to say very boring. So certainly not one of Yu's finest moments, but give it a try nevertheless, or you will have to put up with £1 to go price. Good for 1 or 2 goes, but please don't take it seriously. You know, I'm not sure if Yu Suzuki's having some sort of strop with Sega, but certainly the graphics are certainly of Sega standard, but the gameplay is very, very poor. So, you know, good for a couple of goes, but no more than that. They've got a House of the Dead 3 machine there, and also Virtua Tennis. So that's Signworld in Ocean Village basically covered. Millbrook Super Bowl, that's probably the only big arcade we have left in Southampton. I didn't go there that much, I have to be honest, but I'll tell you about some of the games that were there. Soul Blade they had there, that was a sequel to Soul Calibur. Daytona USA 2, I think Battle on the Edge had a 4-player setup of that. Time Crisis 3 I've already talked about, I used to pop down there. So after when I was working at the hospital, I used to pop down there to Millbrook when Sega Park was closed and play it down there as well. Again, showing that passion I had for games at the time, just to cycle somewhere, you know, just to to get off my backside and go somewhere to play something like that was fantastic. I think they had House of the Dead 3 machine there. They had Star Wars Trilogy back in the day, which I've mentioned as well. Star Wars Racer Arcade I've mentioned as well. Sonic Blast Man, that was back in 1994, really back in the early days. Not much else to say about that. Prop Cycle, which was broken. I got really annoyed playing that. I was trying to show off to my friend when I was playing it, and he was going, why are you going so damn slow? Well, yeah, the pedal machine's broken, but there we are. And of course, they had a Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 3, but you know, no card mechanism, so really a complete waste of time. So as I say, Millbrook Super Bowl is the only place that really has a sort of decent arcade selection in Southampton. Of course, they've got Silent Hill now, okay game for what it is, but nothing spectacular. I know it's based on sort of the movie rather than sort of any of the PlayStation or Xbox games, but there we go. Let's Go Jungle, you know, I've mentioned that about my Sega Park videos. House of Dead 4's there, Dancing Stage 2, NASCAR from Global VR there. Certainly is not a patch on Daytona at all. The only reason I'd want to play that if it was online, but it never is, so there we go. Fast and Furious, either Superbikes or Fast and Furious, I'm not sure which one it is. Personally, I don't care. And of course, an old Outrun 2 machine. So, really what I wanted to do is there was lots of other places I used to play arcade games at, apart from Sega Park. You know, I'd love to give you more information, so it'll be a bit more structured in this video, but I'm sort of just going by on the top of my head here. It's really difficult to go back what you were doing 21 years ago, and you know, even it's about 10 years ago, it's sort of a bit of a blur. But hopefully this video will put, you know, will just give a little bit of props to those places that I used to play arcade games at all those years ago. you know, it is a different world now. You don't find arcade games sort of certainly in takeaways anymore. It's just not profitable. I'm certainly not saying that my era was better, you know, or you know that I had it better than kids today. You know, we can't really compare eras because we only had the technology we had at the time. So, you know, it's just really to celebrate sort of how it was way back when and what we did to enjoy. So, of course, the games you can see behind me, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition and Mortal Kombat 2, two games that I was playing a hell of a lot of in the early 90s. So just to emphasise the point that back then I only really had eyes for fighting games. So that's why I didn't play anything else apart from those. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Just want to say long live the legacy of arcades. You know, their legacy can be seen in consoles to this day. Also wanted to give a shout out to a place called the Heart of Gaming. That's a new arcade that's opened up in London. You know, I'm not part of the London scene at all. I don't know anyone there, but I really want to wish them the best of luck. Have a look at their Facebook site. Support them all you can. I know they mainly cater for the fighting game crowd and sort of the shoot 'em up crowd and sort of the more hardcore sort of arcade gamers. But you know, good stuff nevertheless. You know, really giving it a go in a very difficult and challenging environment. So, you know, we should wish them all the best with their endeavours. Sadly, you know, a lot of the arcades in London have now closed. Casino is now closed. And of course, Funland closed a couple of years ago. So really, that's wrapping up my video now discussing the arcades in Southampton. I had some great times, 21 years of good memories to share with you. Thank you very much for watching. Long live the legacy. Long live the good times. Keep gaming, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.